Happy 2024. 2023 is officially over, and with it came a bunch of good movies. Not as many good movies as 2022, in my opinion, but there still were a good handful of great films. And in this video, I'm going to share with you guys my top 5 favorite movies of 2023. These are just my personal favorite movies. This isn't me being non-biased. This isn't me looking at film critically to choose what I think are technically the best movies. These are just the movies that I enjoyed the most, that I think I'm going to enjoy the most for years to come. Before I get into my list though, I'm going to let you guys know that I didn't see as many movies in 2023 as I typically do. In any given year, I usually see twice as many movies as I saw in 2023. So there were a lot of movies I wanted to watch, I just couldn't get around to seeing, so they're not going to be included on this list. I'm not sure if they would have been on this list, but just letting you guys know. And I wanted to release this video at the end of 2023 instead of the beginning of 2024, but I pushed it back a week because there were some specific movies that I was not going to make this list without seeing. So I'm going to get into my list right now, but before I do, you should consider subscribing. I talk about movies all the time on this page. I do movie reviews, I do trailer reactions, but I also talk about TV shows and I talk about video games, so consider subscribing if any of that seems interesting to you. Before I get into my definitive top 5 list though, I want to mention some honorable mentions, the first being Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I saw this at theaters and I thought it was pretty good, but initially it was pretty low on my list, and then I just rewatched it the other day on 4K and it went up a lot higher. It's not a perfect movie by any means. I think it suffers some pacing issues, especially in the middle part of the movie, but I love the characters, I love the comedy, I love the world, and I really hope it gets a sequel. My second honorable mention is Beau is Afraid. Beau is Afraid is a weird-ass movie. Ari Aster is a weird-ass director. I love Hereditary, and I absolutely love Midsommar, and I will say that Beau is Afraid, for me, right now, is definitely his weakest film, but that's not saying a lot because it's still really, really, really great, and when it comes to Ari Aster films, for me, they get better with each rewatch. So there's a chance in the future Beau is Afraid could rise on this list, but as of right now, it didn't crack my top 5. And my last honorable mention is Evil Dead Rise. I really love the Evil Dead franchise. It's probably in my top 3 horror franchises of all time, and Evil Dead Rise is really great. This isn't me critiquing the movie, but it's a lot slower than your typical Evil Dead movie. It's a lot more methodical, a lot more tame, a lot more dark and depressing. I typically love my Evil Dead products to be a lot more fun, so I wasn't absolutely in love with Evil Dead Rise, but it still was really, really good. It's a great return to the franchise, and I hope that it gets a sequel in some way, shape, or form. Number 5 is the newest Eli Roth horror movie, a slasher film called Thanksgiving. I didn't really have much expectations going into this movie, but I had a damn good time. It's one of the best original slasher movies to come out in a very long time, and it's also one of the best comedies of the year in my opinion. With the future of Scream looking like it's on the rocks, I really hope that Thanksgiving takes off in a really good way, and I hope it gets sequels, and I hope it continues to be really fun and really good. Number 4 on my list is Barbie. This is probably my favorite comedy of the year. I know Barbie as a film means a lot to a lot of people. It doesn't mean that much to me on an emotional level, but what I loved about it was just the pacing, the fun aspect of it, the incredible rewatchability factor. Ryan Gosling is one of my favorite actors of all time, and his role as Ken is probably one of his best performances. I like that he's just having fun. It's a good break from all the serious Ryan Gosling roles. And of course, Margot Robbie is really great as well, and I love the set designs, I love the music, I love that it turns into a musical near the end, and I'm not a huge fan of musicals. Number 3 on my list is Scream 6. I really loved Scream 5. In fact, when Scream 5 came out, it was definitively my second favorite Scream film. And I'm not sure yet, I'm not saying this definitively, but I might very well like Scream 6 even more. Every time I watch it, I have just as much fun as the time before. I love the setting, I love the characters of this new era of Scream, and I really liked the new characters that were introduced in Scream 6. It really stresses me out and depresses me that Scream 7 is having so much production issues now, where they fired the main actress, and then the original directors dropped out, and then the new director from Happy Death Day, he dropped out, and then the other lead actress quit. I was really loving this new era of Scream, and I hope that they find a way to get it back on track somehow. But regardless, Scream 6 is still amazing in my opinion. It probably has my favorite Ghostface kill scenes in the entire Scream franchise. I don't love the killer or the killers in Scream 6, but I don't dislike them either. They're far from the worst, but they're not the best. What I love a lot about Scream 6 too is it's paced a lot like an action movie, but it never makes you forget that it's a slasher film through and through. Now we're getting to my top two, and my number two I have a feeling is going to be a controversial opinion. It's a movie that not a lot of people liked, but I loved. And that is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. This was my most anticipated movie of the year. I don't love the Indiana Jones movies. I have no nostalgia for that franchise, and I think because of that, I was able to enjoy Dial of Destiny a lot more than most people. I actually watched the Indiana Jones movies for the very first time in 2020. And I but I don't love any of the original trilogy or Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but I always loved the concept of the Indiana Jones movies, and of course I just love Harrison Ford. And I know people have complaints with this movie, and I'm not saying those complaints are invalid. I actually understand why a lot of people don't like this film. So again, I'm not invalidating any of that, but for me personally, I loved Indiana Jones, and it was my favorite movie for most of the year. And Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is actually the very first time that I ever bought two versions of the exact same movie. I don't mean upgrading, by the way. I've upgraded DVDs to Blu-rays and I've upgraded Blu-rays to 4K, but never have I bought two versions of the exact same disc. It's the same disc in both of these cases. But I loved this Walmart exclusive slipcover and I had to have it. But I also needed the Best Buy Steelbook to go with my other Indiana Jones Steelbooks. But yeah, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is my number two movie, and like I mentioned, it was my number one through most of the year. But at the very end of the year, it lost its number one spot to a film that came out earlier this year, but for some dumb, idiotic reason that I'll never forgive myself for, I didn't go and see it in theaters. And I bought the 4K when it first came out, but then the 4K sat on my shelf for months. And then in December, when I was trying to catch up on all the movies I missed, I finally put in the 4K and I watched it, and it blew me away, and I'll forever regret not seeing it in theaters. And my number one film of the year is John Wick Chapter 4. I love everything about the John Wick movies, but John Wick Chapter 4 takes everything that's great about those movies: the plot, the world building, the setup, the supporting cast, the stunts, the cinematography, the pacing, everything that's good about John Wick 1, 2, and 3. John Wick 4 does an insane amount better. This movie has the best action sequences in the franchise, no questions asked. But what this movie does really, really well, in my opinion, is it has by far the best supporting cast in the entire John Wick franchise. I love the world of John Wick, but I'm not overly excited for John Wick spin-offs and TV shows and movies set in the John Wick universe. But after seeing John Wick Chapter 4, I would love a spin-off based on any of those new supporting characters. They're all great. And like I said with Indiana Jones, it was the first time I ever bought two versions of the same movie. John Wick Chapter 4 is actually the first time that I ever downgraded, because I bought this 4K, and then after I saw the movie, I needed to have this Walmart exclusive Steelbook, but it's a Blu-ray for some reason. It's not a 4K. So I actually bought a lesser version of the movie just to have this incredibly cool slipcover and Steelbook set that also includes a bunch of art cards. I'm not going to open them up, but there's like 12 art cards in there. But anyway, that's my top 5 movies of 2023. What did you think about my list? Let me know in the comments. But more importantly, in the list, let me know what your favorite movies of the year are, because there were a lot I missed, and I'm sure you can recommend me some good ones. Within the next couple days, I'm going to release my gaming list video, so look forward to that, and thank you for watching, especially if you watched this far, and consider subscribing if you liked this video and you want to see more content from me. Once again, thank you for watching.